So you know that thing where two people can have the exact same amount of money and feel completely different about it? I mean, let's say your friend has $800 in the bank and sleeps like a baby at night. And meanwhile, you have 10 times that amount sitting in your account, and well, you're the one lying awake at 2 o'clock in the morning running numbers in your head. I mean, it's the same math, right? But it's a completely different feeling. And that difference, well, it was never about the money. See, it's about a script you learned before you could, let's say, ride a bike. So today what I want to do is show you the 4 money scripts, help you spot the one that is, pretty much running the script in your head, and then give you one small move that starts to loosen that grip on you. I'm Alan Stafford, and I help people think clearly in a noisy world, and this is Think Sharper. So before we start, let me ask you something here, okay? Have you ever hit a money goal that was supposed to fix that feeling? Maybe it was the raise you got or the savings number that you hit in your account or finally paying off that credit card debt. And then you got there and you didn't really notice that, feeling of satisfaction. That, my friend, is the clue this whole series is built on because your worry was never reading the number. It was reading a story about the number. And psychologists call these stories money scripts. And well, they are pretty much beliefs you absorbed so early on in your life that they don't feel like beliefs anymore. They feel like the truth. So here's what you're going to walk out of this video with, okay? You're going to get 4 scripts researchers keep finding and a clear picture of which one is driving your decisions. And a simple naming move that creates just enough distance for you to change what happens next in your life. So this is the first episode of a 10-part series on the hidden mind behind money, and everything else we do is pretty much going to be built on this one episode. So where do these scripts come from? Well, not from your adult reasoning, I can tell you that much, okay? See, researchers at Cambridge reviewed how children form money habits, and what they found is that the basic habits of money or mind around money, things like planning ahead and waiting instead of grabbing, are largely formed by around age 7. So think about that for a moment, okay? The thoughts about money were solidified in your mind before you ever had a wallet or purse for that matter. So it's worth asking what money sounded like in the house you kind of grew up in. Maybe it was, hey, we can't afford that. Or maybe it was, money doesn't grow on trees. That's my favorite. Or maybe it was that tense silence that fell over the kitchen every time a bill hit the table. See, you were not taking notes back then on purpose, okay, obviously, but something in you, in your head, it was taking notes. And those lines are still down there today. They're quietly voting on every money decision you make as an adult. Now, the 4 patterns I'm about to show you come from real research. You see, a team led by psychologist Brad Klontz had over 400 people rate dozens of these money beliefs, and when they ran the number, 4 categories kept showing up. And I want to be very careful with this, okay, because these are not the only 4 ways to be human about money. They're just simply 4 patterns the data just keeps finding. And remember, a script is just a line you absorbed so early that it stopped feeling like a belief and started feeling like the truth. So here are the 4, and I promise you, you're probably going to recognize yourself in at least one of them. All right, first up is the ghost. See, the ghost avoids things, which means the bank statements, when they pile up unopened on the table or kitchen table, and money talk feels, well, stressful enough that you find yourself changing the subject often. And the strange part about this one is when a ghost finally gets ahead, financially, they feel guilty about it, almost like they didn't earn the right to be okay with it. So the hidden assumption underneath is pretty simple. See, money is kind of dirty, so the safest move is to not look. And the cost of that becomes obvious the moment you say it out loud because you can't steer what you refuse to look at. But there is a bit of truth to this script, okay? Ghosts are rarely greedy people, and it just cannot be the reason the statements stay unopened, my friend. And second is the moving goalpost. And this one believes the next number you're going to hit, the next financial number, is the one that finally buys your peace. So you tell yourself that once you hit, let's say, 6 figures, you're going to relax. And then you hit it. And the goal quietly slides to the next number before you even get to enjoy that last one. See, the hidden line here is the next dollar is going to fix how you feel. And the cost, well, it's a treadmill you can run on forever without ever getting off. So there's a real name for that pattern, by the way, and I have a whole video coming out on this later in the series. But the grain of truth, that drive builds things, okay? And it just never lets you arrive. And third is the validator. For the validator, what you have and what you're worth are quietly become the same thing. So the car and the zip code start to matter, and oftentimes more than what is actually behind the account or what's in your account. So the hidden assumption here is that my worth is something I have to show people. And the cost is that you can look the part and still be one bad month from the edge, losing everything. So the grain of truth that goes with this is that wanting respect is deeply human. It just got pointed at the scoreboard instead of the things that actually earn it. And fourth is the warden. See, the warden, they guard. This is the person who saves hard and knows the balance by heart, the balance of their account by heart. And on paper, well, the warden looks like the healthiest of the four, but the warden cannot spend on a small comfort without, well, let's say, a wave of guilt washing behind them. And no matter what the number says, they never quite feel safe. See, the assumption here is if I relax for 1 second, it could all disappear. And the cost here is not really your bank account, it's your life, because you can win the whole money game and still feel you're, well, losing it all. And the truth, the grain of truth behind this is that vigilance genuinely protects you. It just forgot how to exhale. So which one made you wince? Kind of go, oh, that's me. Pay attention to that, because that reaction, that's data. So now here's the move I want you to go with, okay? And what I want to do is warn you up front. It's almost embarrassingly simple. See, the next time the money feeling spikes in you, I want you to name the script out loud, not in your head, out loud. Like something like, that's the warden talking, or that's the goalpost moving. See, there's real research behind why this works. A team at UCLA studied something called affect labeling, which is just the science name for putting a feeling into words. And what they did is they watched what happened in the brain when people actually did that. So when people put the feeling into words, the brain's alarm response immeasurably calmed down. So naming the thing turns down its volume, so to speak. And something even bigger happens in that moment, because when you say that's the warden talking, you've created a little bit of space between you and that script in your head. You're no longer standing inside the belief. You're basically looking at it, and you can't question the belief you're still standing inside of. Then in that space you just made for yourself, you ask one question, okay? Is this line actually true today? Not when you were 6 years old, but today. And look, okay, sometimes the answer is yes, okay? It's true, because sometimes money is really tight, and this month, the caution is earned, okay? And when that is the case, well, you honor it. But a surprising amount of the time, the answer is no, and the account is fine. The purchase is small, and the fear is running on a 30-year-old script that was written by a kid. Now, that question is not going to fix everything in one night, okay? And I'm not going to pretend it will. What it does do is it puts a wedge in the door, and every episode in this series is pretty much going to push that door open a little further. So here's your homework, okay? And it's small, it takes a few seconds. Sometime this week when the money feeling shows up, name the script out loud and ask whether that line is true today or not. See, that's the entire assignment. Because in the next episode, what we're going to do is go back to the kitchen table you grew up at, because those inherited lines can be found, written down, and redecided. And what I'm going to do is show you exactly how to do it. So if this series sounds like something you need, subscribing, well, that's the way to make sure you catch all 10 episodes. Hey, I want to thank you for watching. I'm Alan Stafford. Think sharper, stay softer.